Hey guys, how are you? Coming to you from a Costco parking lot. Shout out to my guy Milano down in Miami. I was living full time out of his Class B. Thinking of him today. Hope you're doing well, brother. Well, in this video, what I want to share on is the stresses, the mental stresses and headaches in car living in your car, which is an odd thing in society in the United States of America. Probably 1% of society live out of their car. If there's 350 million people that live in the U.S. approximately, um, I doubt 3.5 million people are living out of their cars. So what I can tell you is the stresses are basically that your mind is never settled. When you have a house, when you have a fixed location to go back to every night, your mind is settled. You have routines, you have habits, you have familiar places to go to. There's no challenge of constant change. There's no stress of adapting to a new environment, to learning new stores, new areas, and to navigating the new atmosphere, the new surroundings. When you have to change, there's stress. That's why a lot of people don't like to change. That's why a lot of people, even if they're unhappy in their job, they won't change. Why? Because they know it's going to be stressful to change. A lot of people aren't happy with where they live. Why won't they move? It's a lot of stress to move. The stress of change can cause people to stay the same. When you live in your car and you're going to basically move around constant, movement is basically almost guaranteed in this life unless you're renting, a piece of land or you're renting some area to stay. And what I can tell you is that change can be overwhelming and can tax your mind and can eventually cause you to give up this lifestyle. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind, saying, I tried this for a while, it doesn't work now, I want to go back to a regular conforming life in an apartment or house. I often think about that even now, as I am down in Florida. One of my main goals in living a nomad life and living in my car was I sold my condo I owned in New Jersey for 15 years. Then I lived out of my car for almost 2 years in New Jersey because I had a static job in an office in New Jersey. I recently obtained a remote position that allowed me to come down to Florida full time. So living in my car, I saw it as a way of a transitional period in order to obtain my end goal, which is to relocate to Florida, always live below my means. Part of me selling my condo too was no matter what I would buy in the future, whether any type of house or whatever it may be, it's always going to be below my means, very much so. And so, living in your car, the number one asset, living mobile, whether it's RV or van, is your flexibility. Your ability to go to any state at any time for any job or any function, and you have mobility. In today's technology era, mobility is an asset. The old American dream was a house in a fixed location. But the old American dream was tied in with the old American society. The old American society was you worked at the same job for 20, 30 years. You got a guaranteed pension. You retired with certain benefits in the early 60s, and that was your golden era. Okay. In today's society, the average person changes their job about every 4.5 years. Most people don't have pensions. Okay, so you're going to have to change jobs, you're going to have to change locations, and technology has enabled people to be able to work somewhat remotely and to be interconnected into the world and to start their own businesses online. So in today's new America, mobility is a huge asset, and it's the new American dream to be mobile, to be free in some sense. In some other sense, there's nothing new under the sun. Even the hippies adapted to a mobile lifestyle. They were anti-society. They were anti the American dream because they saw a lot of bullshit with the Vietnam War and with other things that were going on in society with the elite at that time that were, just gearing things, not for everyone. But that being said, where the hippies had it wrong was they just believed, look, just sell everything, live in your van, don't work, just fight society. And I think that's where they went too far to the extreme. Look, you have to work. You have to have some type of income, whether it's self-employed or something else. We're all part of society. You need society to be healthy. You can't have your society be destroyed and then you still thrive. You are tied into community. We're all tied into humanity, even if we live in different countries. So, just the end to society and anti-society is not the answer. Okay, that's why I don't believe in just buy guns, stock food, and just, live remotely and think like, that's not the answer. Okay. And that's an unhealthy mind. You are here to be part of a community, even if the community is humanity. And you are not adding value by bunkering down with ammo, guns, and, thinking about the, prepping times. Okay. That's not a benefit to society. It's okay to be by yourself. It's okay to be a little bit isolated, but you know what I mean? There's a big difference in what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? But what I can tell you is the stress of constant change, the stress of constantly adapting to a new environment. Even today, I moved a little bit different part of Florida. I mean, I have the flexibility to move because I have a remote position and I have a mind that adapts, but I still feel the stress. And after about 2 years of living on the road, I feel that more and more weighing on my mind that, at a certain point, you do want to kind of settle into a certain area. Now, campgrounds have helped me relieve some of that stress by, up to 5 or 14 days, I stay at one camp location. And then for that time, I don't have a mental stress of finding a safe, legal place to park. There's certain people that, stealth camp. And I camp at times at Walmarts, truck stops, rest areas. But, you don't get the most peaceful sleep at times. I mean, I sleep peacefully even there, I would say. But once in a while, if you're interrupted in the middle of the night, and your mind is always kind of awake a little bit because you always know that you have to be a little bit on guard. It can be done. I did it without any problems while maintaining my health, but also understand that I preach a lot of self-care. Now, I know I've been able to thrive because of, my habits in eating well, exercising, mental health, and all these different things. I try to really take care of myself. Taking care of yourself is a full-time job. If you're bored, that means you're not exercising self-care. Because self-care, you can stay busy all day, even if you had no job, just taking care of yourself in a good way. Okay, not just watching porn and watching YouTube all day. That's not taking care of yourself. Okay. But what I can tell you is you may want to change your mind and go back to a conforming life because it will wear on your mind. Nothing wrong with that. But you also may get bored going back to a conforming life because everything gets boring. And then you may say, oh, now I need adventure again. So whatever you do, always remember, I go back to this, the end goal is to live below your means. The end goal, I think, also is to exercise self-care and then realize that, you can, even me, I look at buying an RV lot or buying something that is at a very small scale that still keeps a level of flexibility while also giving me some mental stability as far as not having to worry about a place to park now that I found the place that inspires me, my happy place, whatever you want to call it. But that's sometimes that could be a moving target too. So right now, I just want to make a video to document all my different thoughts around the nomad life, living it full time. This isn't like, some type of orchestrated thing that I'm doing, to try to entice people to do one thing or another. Because I was just like you. I was looking, when I was trying to get out of New Jersey, when I was trying to downsize my life, when I was trying to, even start businesses, and whether it was investments or something else, I looked on YouTube and how I can live a simple life to take on more risk. Because when you move states, it's more risk. When you start your own business, more risk. When you do anything in life, there's a level of risk. So I looked at downsizing. I knew I wanted to live a more simple life. I had 1,000 square foot condo. I only used a little bit of it. And so looking through YouTube, talking to people, I looked at the RV lifestyle, and then eventually I was like you. I looked at car living because I said, for a single person, I can do that. I'm young and I'm in shape. So now 2 years later, now I'm on the opposite side of the screen and I'm giving people my perspective. And my perspective is this lifestyle will wear on your mind. But my perspective is also living in a house will wear on your mind because I've done both. My perspective is you're always going to need income, hopefully. And that's one of my still remaining goals. Hopefully you can find a way to do something you really, really love, or to have your own business, or to live off investments, or to do something that, allows you to maximize your personal time and to, live a life that's fully inspired. But you have to take those steps. You have to do them responsibly, and you have to always have an optimistic mind, but a realistic mind that nothing is perfect. And you're always going to have the tennis match of the mind. You're always going to have some negatives in life, some things that no matter what lifestyle you live, this world just brings. And you have to hit that tennis ball back to the other side and try to stay positive, try to keep going forward. If you do that, no matter what you decide, and even if you decide something, you change your mind, I think you'll be all right. Self-care has got to be the foundation. And then you take it one day at a time. one step at a time.